At the beginning of things, the Beloved unveiled his beauty. So he created the life-giving meadows and the garden of the universe, so that from every bough and flower and leaf therein, his beauty should be manifested in many different forms.
In the Islamic world, the works of man are in harmony with the natural world, and man rejoices at the privilege of a precious gift, life.
Know then, may God guide you and us, that all creatures are subject to a regular and orderly system. Causes are linked to effects. Notice first how the visible elements are ranged in an ascending order from earth, through water and air, to fire. Each is connected with the other, and each is of a finer substance than the one below it.
Muslims think of man as the link between God and nature. The earth sustains human life. Man draws his food from it, but he refrains from forcing it. If these apparently simple methods do not change, it is not because of inertia, but because within them the experience of many centuries is stored. Not only does the earth give man his food, it also gives him his shelter. Almost everywhere in the Islamic world, this village is in southern Arabia, man draws his building materials from the rocks and soil. His role is to mold and ennoble the materials of nature, to release and intensify the beauty inherent in them, rather than to change their character. In a Muslim village, each man builds his own dwelling. There are no architects. The forms of nature provide the models. The rolling hills, or the beehive, as in some of the villages of Syria. The Kasbahs of southern Morocco are built of mud. Some have lasted for hundreds of years, and most are beautifully decorated in a style the Arabs brought with them from southern Arabia many centuries ago. The earth is still the basic building material in most parts of the Islamic world. The walls will last for many years in a dry climate, or if protected from rain. The dampened earth is built up in sections between shuttering. One day, when there is no further use for it, the building will be allowed to sink back into the soil. Muslims recognize that every work of man is transient, and like their nomadic ancestors, They make no attempt to leave a permanent mark behind them. By the time a complete circuit has been finished, the sun will have baked the new sections hard and dry, and the layer above can be built. The tightly packed, thick walls give excellent insulation from the extremes of temperature. They are much better than concrete in this respect, cooler in summer and warmer in winter. Traditional methods and architecture are being used in Iran to build a chain of new hotels. They are comfortable and practical, and have cost far less than similar concrete buildings. The walls are rendered with a layer of earth mixed with straw, which covers and protects the inner blocks. Water is precious in much of the Islamic world, and a source of joy. It must be treasured. This dam in Iran was built, probably on older foundations, just over 1,000 years ago. It was part of a system which included 11 major dams.
The ruler brought engineers and workmen to build this dam with stones set in mortar. It was reinforced by iron anchors, coated with lead. Upstream and downstream, the river bed was paved for several miles, and the supply canals extended for over 10 miles, serving 300 villages.
The power from the dam was not wasted. 10 powerful water mills were operated from it. In the 11th century, this dam near the border of Afghanistan and Iran was built. It is still the source of life for a whole region. The dam is 120 feet high and 280 feet long, and many centuries earlier than anything comparable in Europe. Dams are one of the 3 usual means of increasing the water supply in the arid regions of the Islamic world. The others are wells and underground canals. The underground canals in Iran are called canals, and all that can be seen from the surface is the craters left from the diggings. The system was inherited by Islam from the ancient world, and without the canals, life would not be possible in many areas. The men who dig the canals form a special group, deeply respected by the community. The work is dangerous as well as essential, and they are never made to enter a canal if a premonition has warned them not to. Shafts are sunk at intervals, and from them the underground canal which will carry the water is dug. This canal is carefully planned by a traditional surveying method. Its gradient is arranged so that the water will flow out steadily at the desired point, and since it is underground, almost nothing is lost by evaporation. In this way, the relatively high rainfall falling on the mountains and seeping into the ground beneath is made to irrigate distant areas. Canals are sometimes as much as 50 miles long. The canal can flow out and irrigate the fields directly, or it can lead to a cistern covered by a large dome which protects the water from the sun. This cistern has just been built. Steps lead down to the water, which is kept cool and fresh by towers which catch the wind. This storage system with 4 wind catchers is 600 years old. Another has 6 wind catchers. The water drawn from these cisterns is vital to the life of many towns. Wells are the third of the traditional means of obtaining water in the Islamic world. This method of raising water, known as the Persian wheel, spread widely with Islam. It still supports agriculture from India to Spain. The same principle can be used where it is necessary to raise running water to a higher level, but it can now be powered by the stream itself. This mechanism in Damascus is at least 4 centuries old and was in use until recently. Without any animal or human effort, it raised water continuously to supply the mosque and its adjacent hospital. The huge water wheels now found at Hama in Syria go back to Roman times. They were absorbed by Islamic civilization and became a widespread and characteristic feature. Poets likened them to the clouds which drink from the sea and, rising over the land, distribute rain, and their sound to the sighs of lovers. The rim is made up of hollow compartments which fill with water as they dip. In this manner, the water is lifted to the height of the wheel, where it flows out into aqueducts. The wheels are an image of the perfect balance between man and nature which Islam aims at. Simply by maintaining them, the entire area is irrigated. Nothing is wasted. Even what is spilt returns to the river.
Round-shouldered, towards the earth inclined, it waters the dust with glistening pearls. Like a singing bow, its upper half shoots streams of water all around, like the spheres of heaven, for its gushings are like shooting stars, fighting the earth's aridity. I do not believe thirst makes it sigh, since the waters flow over its shoulders. It is really a singer, and the garden a drinker, and the drink and the song are eternally bound. The bright strands of water against the dark wood stand out like bright gifts against the darkness of requests.
Even the birds, as they stretch forth their wings, praise God.
The air of the cities of the Middle East, this is Yazd in Iran, is cool in the morning because with no cloud cover the temperature drops rapidly at night. Once the sun has risen, a layer of warm air quickly spreads over the buildings, and the cooler night air, which is heavier than warm air, is trapped in the thousands of narrow streets and courtyards which make up the city. High walls keep the sun out till late in the afternoon, and many of the streets and houses will remain relatively cool for much of the day. The difference can be even as much as 10 degrees centigrade. The mosque and mausoleum of Sultan Bakuk in Cairo makes use of the same principle. Built into it are vertical shafts which appear at first sight to serve no purpose. They are part of an efficient air conditioning system which uses no energy but depends instead on an understanding of natural principles. The covered bazaars which are found in almost every Islamic city make use of the same ideas. Beneath the hundreds of domes which cover them, the bazaars of Iran trap the cool night air and provide a refuge from the heat and glare outside. In Morocco, the bazaars are not roofed, but are covered with trellis work which breaks up and softens the sunlight. The Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan built this mosque. It is on the edge of the Sindh Desert in Pakistan, one of the hottest regions in the world. It is a superb example of the adaptation of architecture to climatic conditions. The whole mosque suggests coolness. The ceramic decoration uses cold colors and crystalline forms which recall those found in ice and snowflakes, while other panels remind one of pleasant gardens. The atmosphere is calm and serene. Arcades surrounding the courtyard retain the cooler air, and perforated screens, called jalis, catch any breeze and allow it to circulate, so that the body, as well as the mind and heart of man, is refreshed. In the same town, every house is provided with a wind catcher, shafts rising above the roof and directed towards the prevailing wind. They are another means of controlling temperature. In many regions of the Islamic world, wind catchers have developed into important architectural features. These are at Kerman in Iran. The projecting sticks are sometimes hung with dampened mats which help cool the air. The wind enters the tower from one side and is deflected down the shaft into the house. As it circulates, it absorbs the heat and rises, finding its way out through the opposite side of the shaft. Once again, temperature is controlled without the consumption of energy. In Cairo, wind catchers were always used in conjunction with a particular type of wooden lattice screen, which covered the windows of the houses. These beautiful screens gave privacy to the women of the house. One can look out through them without being seen, just as a woman looks out through her veil. And they allow the air to circulate freely, while the rounded sections of which they are made modulate the harsh glare of the sun into something soft and beautiful. Air currents provided Islam with an important new source of energy. The earliest windmills known to history were reported on the borders of Afghanistan and Iran during the 1st century of Islam. The same type of vertical mill is still used in the area today. On the side from which the wind usually blows, there is a wall with one slit for each mill. The wind is forced to pass through these openings and blows against the sails, rotating the mill. The velocity of the wind is controlled simply by spreading across the slit a screen of tall reeds. The wind is also put to another use. Below the main slit is a hole leading to the mill, which is built directly under the sails, and the wind blowing through this hole is the means of winnowing the grain. The millstones are directly fastened to the main shaft, and no gearing is needed. The fire in this pottery kiln in Morocco burns an unusual but very efficient fuel. The region is rich in olives, and crushed olive stones from nearby oil presses are dried on the roof of the pottery. They are saturated with olive oil, and when fed to the fire at once give temperatures very much higher than is usually considered possible by natural means. The heat is intensified by the design of the kiln, which creates considerable pressure. Such methods are found elsewhere in the Islamic world, and it is thought that they may have been part of the secret means by which the famous and exceptional steel of Damascus was produced prior to the sack of the city in the 13th century. A more usual problem in the Islamic world has been to overcome the effects of heat. This building in Iran is an ice dome. It is 500 or 600 years old. Ice was available even during the hottest summers. It was made and stored at special buildings on the edges of the towns. A long, high wall kept the area in front of it permanently in shadow. This area was flooded each night. The water at first flowed into a trough in which it was cleaned and filtered. It was then allowed to spread out and form a thin sheet across the open tiled floor. At night, the temperature dropped rapidly, and the water froze. Further layers of water were added, and in the morning the ice was still protected from the sun. It was then cut into blocks and stored in the adjacent ice dome. These large mud-built domes are similar to the water storage systems. Their thick mud walls give excellent insulation and preserve the ice packed into them. Even 1,000 years ago, iced sherbet was available throughout the summer in the bazaars and homes of Islamic cities. Islamic civilization did not depend on the use of resources which are exhaustible. Because it corresponded to the whole nature of man and did not concentrate on certain aspects only, it was never in conflict with the natural world. Nature was a partner of man, not his slave. man's mark upon the landscape was always gentle. He did not forget that he is only a traveler passing through the world.